So I got some clean 6-arc brass that I already trim, size, and chamfer. And what you do is, well, the way I do it, there's many ways, but I use this machine here by RCBS. I've been using it for a long time, and you turn it on and everything. And you know, it's got patterns and blades, and basically after you trim, you would just run it in the inside of the case like that. Chamfers all the inside of the case cleanly, and then you go on the outside. And it gives you a very clean cut with a bevel on it. And this is my trimmer that I use. This one is from Sinclair International, and these have got caliber specific shell holders. And what you do is you stick one in there, tap it, and then you would come and you drop it in there. And what I do, I chuck the drill here, and you go, and it cuts it. And then you just pop it out. Of course, this one didn't cut anything because it's already been cut. But this trimmer is very precise. It goes down to thousandths of an inch. One of those lines is 1/1000th of an inch, and it, I mean, literally cuts to the 1/1000th. And then, you know, you run your powder charge dispenser there. You put your charge weight, and it'll if I can put this back on here. It'll drop your charge. And you know, I set them all in a block such as this, and you put your case there, and then there's a funnel with caliber specific. This is 6mm. So you will stick that in the funnel. It's got an O-ring, keeps it tight, and it'll stay on the mouth perfectly. And you know, you grab your charge and you charge your case with that. And that's kind of the way that works. And then if you were gonna prime a case such as this one, I'm gonna see if I can find a primer that I already popped somewhere. I'm pretty sure there's one or two on the floor. Here's one. So you would use this, and you know, this little tray has little ridges. And when the primer's like that, all you do is you shake it, and it flips it upside up. But the way so that you would close this, flip it this way, and then the primer's that way, the right orientation, and you would get your primer tube, which will, it will pick up your primer. So your primer's in there now. And of course you can put up to 100 in the tube. And then you would bring it up to this priming tool, which I've used for years. I tried many, but this is the one I settled on. It's very reliable, very good. Then you get your shell holder for the cartridge you're using, You pop it in there. You drop the small, it has a small and large primer cups. And then you bring your tube and you stick it in here, and once you release the pin, the primer will drop. And let me see if that is in focus so you guys can maybe see this somehow. I don't know. Anyways, let me see here if this will work this way. So you see there's no primer there, but once you bring the ram down, now there's a primer in there. See that? So all you would do is lift the handle, you slide your case, push on it, and voila, you have a prime case. In this case, it's an expand primer, but that's how it works. Now, for measuring the chambers, so you know overall length on the cases, you would use a tool like this. This is the tool I use for measuring AR-15s, because it's easier to get in from the back. You remove the bolt carrier group, and then you basically bullet. You see the bullet is loose in there. So what you would do is, this modified case fits the chamber perfect. In this case, it's a 6 arc, and you would sit that as far as it will go in the chamber, and then you push. You would push the round until it's seated in the lance, as far as it will go in the barrel, and then you would lock this here, this little nut will lock, and that will prevent the bullet to going in any further. Or then you would push the bullet out with a rod, and most people would go and measure this way, right? There is a cutout here, and you would put your calipers here and measure the tip. In that case, it would be 22.264 thousandths of an inch, and you would say, okay, that's my max. And then you would, I usually go between, usually works around anywhere from 20 to 30 thousandths off the lance, because you don't want a bullet that's too long and is jammed in the lance, and you try to open the bolt, and the bullet will get stuck in the barrel, and all your powder will be flying into the chamber, and you would have a big mess in your hands. But that is not the right way to do it, because it's got variations in the length of the bullets, the tips, whether it's plastic or a hollow point bullet. Anyways, what you will want to do is use this tool, which is considered they call it a bullet comparator, and you zero it out, and then you would stick this here in the cutout. I can get this, and then you would bring that in, and it stops right there. And then you would mark that 1576, and that is the measurement to the ogive, or the bearing surface on the bullet, which is very consistent, very little deviation from bullet to bullet. So you always know what the length is that you're sitting them to every time you do it. Because the last thing you want is these bullets, when they're seated, resized properly, they got a lot of tension on the mouth of that case. And when the primer ignites, the powder pressure builds, and it has building pressure, and it overcomes the pressure, and the bullet spit comes out, and it has to have what we call jump. Usually 30, 40 thousandths, whatever. You have to test 5 thousandths at a time. That jump is the distance between here and when it actually engages the rifling in the barrel. And if you don't give it that space, it's called peak pressure, and you got a mess in your hands. Your guns don't shoot good. You have pressure signs. So it's very important that you test every gun, no matter what, whether it's a gas gun or a bolt gun. Now, if I was gonna test a bolt action such as this one, let me pull this out. I use a different tool. This one is from Sinclair International, this tool. So this one would go into the recess for the bolt in there. Let me get this out of the way here. And then you would come and stick a bullet in the barrel and push this and say that's the back of the bullet. You're touching it. You would lock this collar and then mark it there, and then you would extract the bullet, and then you would put a fire case that came from that chamber in the chamber and stick this back in there. And obviously now that the round is in there, the cartridge, it'll stop again because it's now is much shorter the distance. And say this is where it stopped. You would lock the collar, this little collar, and now, well, I did this backwards. You would stick it in there and lock the collar, just like you did the other one. And then you take your caliper and you measure these two surfaces right here. Say 2.31 inches. You write that down, and then you would come and measure the bullet. In this case, this bullet measures 1.037, and you add those two figures together, and that's the max length you can load in that chamber. And again, you start with like 20 or 30 thousandths off, and you see how it shoots. And if you don't like it, then you play with that sitting depth 5 thousandths at a time until you get it shooting bitching. But in a nutshell, that's kind of what you do with this dog wants to go out. What you do with reloading. And obviously you have to anneal. I anneal my brass every 3 firings, because the wire, when the brass gets hot and cold, it hardens. So you use a system you call annealing, which basically what it is you heat the brass to 700 degrees, and it changes the molecular composition of the brass. It softens it, so it has elasticity, and it springs back and all that good stuff, like new again. And you can make consistent reloads with consistent neck pressure, neck tension.